It's showtime.
Hi, nay, 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 hi,
No,
nay,
no, no, no,
nay.
no. We're not listening to your version of music today. That is certainly not going to happen.
Are you sure?
Maybe, but at least we start with a calm introduction. Today we have Joe Pressimone, and we have Joe Pressimone on because we want to get in touch with how it feels to like be on the verge of expressing yourself through music, through singing, through the joy of life, and be in environments which may not be willing and open and able to accept that. So we're going to discuss that for the hour with Joe Pressimone on
A Wonderful Chaos.
I always feel like the Muppets whenever we get on the show, like da 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 da. So Joe, Joe.
Andy, first of all, how are you today? I don't even know how you're doing. How are you?
So I'm on the second day of a juice fast, and Ronnie was cooking some really good food, and it was very difficult to to stay present. So what I found myself doing, which is very interesting, you learn how far your mind works on autopilot when you're in situations that are different than your normal days. So now I smell this food. So like almost like a zombie-esque like movement. I get out of bed and I start walking to the fridge because I'm hungry, right? With forgetting that it's the juice diet time. So then I open the door and look inside to the that there's all of this food Ronnie's purchased that she's going to eat, which is all the stuff I love. And I've got like 4 juice bottles sort of waiting for me for the day. And so that's been my reality.
That's beautiful.
And I've been good with it. I had to break a little bit because I did see that I wasn't so prepared. So I did have some miso soup, which is, I wouldn't normally do that, but I thought, let's be,
No, miso is good.
Yeah, let's not go crazy here. And you, how are things with you now?
I'm really happy it's raining today.
Huh?
And when it rains, I love to run, so I just run here.
Wow.
Yeah.
You ran here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just love running in the rain.
For those of you that don't know, like Bambos does his morning rituals, which is, running and kind of half naked with weights on himself, and then jumps in this half polluted water of Amsterdam. And he does that in the winter. So now one might think that that's a normal thing to do, but
and now I don't do it.
Now you wouldn't do it because it's not cold enough.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but I feel quite peaceful and really excited about this subject. Like there's been times in my life, Andy, where I felt suffocated in my body. And somehow being on traffic lights at 7 a.m. in the morning on my way to the gym, and I just felt like a tightness in my throat, like I need to express something. And sometimes it would be me going, hi, just letting that voice out, like full on, and getting these people looking at me. And I'm like, they're not going to see me again. It's okay. I'm just showing them what they're incapable of doing right now in this moment. So I would just let it out.
Yeah.
Because it was either I suffocate myself or I liberate myself in that moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is beautiful.
So to actually interview someone or to be with someone who actually does this all the time. So there's no, at least I'm assuming that.
Well, we'll see. Yeah. How far she goes.
Yeah. I'm really excited. How is it for you? You're quite free in yourself, no?
I'm free, but like I'm free in an interesting way. Like I wouldn't sing in public only because I'd want to save the others, but I would sing around friends and then they'd say, shut up. So like that I do often. Or if I'm in public with Ronnie, I'll do fake arguments. Like I'll just say, baby, what's going on? And just like an absurd moment that's so not real or true. And then she'll look at me, just start laughing.
I love it.
It's like that's other people's relationships, not ours.
But do you do that to get reactions, or do you do it to put her in it?
No. I almost do it so we can have a big laugh because it's so, and it's never normally that many people around. It's more like, But the one thing that did happen about a week or two ago is we were just discussing money, right? Just on the street. And she's like, Andy, you don't talk about that on the street. You don't talk about money on the street. And she says, we're in the Netherlands. It's very rude to talk about money on the street. So then,
Really?
yeah, that's what she explained to me. I mean, I never really thought about it. But then she says to me, and I said, well, how about sex? And she says, that's not a problem. So then I just start talking about sex, but in a loud voice. So then basically just like the fun of that. Okay, if apparently money is an issue that we can't discuss on the road, we'll discuss sex then. And
there's no taboos there.
And she laughed when we did that. But she said, of course, country by country, it's different.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So now we have Joe. And for me, like I met Joe, and we don't want to go into too much detail, but I met her at a low point in my life, in my business life. We were doing an intervention in a place that she was working in, and we slowly became friends. And I think she was cautious with me because she's like, I kind of represented the evil empire for the company that she was in trying to support. But in time, we started to spend more time. And what I was really loving in her was this, like, I would almost call it this bubbly nature. It was like, I could see she was always on the verge of breaking out in song. Like that was sort of like if she had her choice, she'd sing whatever her reply was going to be to a person if she could get away with it, right? And she'd preferably sing something from Stephen Sondheim because there'll be a quote from this really well-known, what would we call him? He's created musicals. I don't know what the name of that would be. There's a word, she'll give it to us. But he's basically the creator of these wonderful songs, these lyrics for musicals. And she knows every word of every musical that he's ever produced, I'm quite sure. So we are going to discuss with her a bit of how it is to live with that feeling of I can always sing and I'm probably more expressive than the people around. I want to know, how is it for her to be around others that aren't so comfortable with that? And I'm curious to see where it came from because she has a family that's quite a unique kind of fixture. And I want to dig into that as well.
Let's dig.
So without further ado, we have Joe Pressimone in the flesh.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Is this what you expected for an intro for you?
I'm like, oh, I should be bubblier. This is okay.
I had the same thought. I hope she's bubbly.
It's like at 8, I don't know, you got 11 o'clock your time. So I think bubbly comes after 5 or 6, possibly.
I don't know. I'm kind of a morning person. AMs are all right with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me, because I always associated your bubbliness with how you were raised.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
And I'd love to dig it before we go anywhere. I'd love to know, what is it like in your family and in your surroundings that made it that you were more inclined to be that way?
Oh, well, my family is like, I don't know, out of the park amazing. So I come from this really big, joyful Catholic family. Grew up as one of 7 siblings, and then along the way accumulated 5 more siblings. So now I'm the second born, third oldest of 12 siblings. And my folks are just they're people with music in their hearts and always have been. So I think the bubbliness probably just comes from the musicalness that we were raised with. Whether it was at church or at the theater. My parents owned a dinner theater when I was a kid. Like when I was a little kid, they were putting on productions of like I Do and 2 by 2, like these obscure musicals, or Oklahoma was my stage debut when I was like 7 years old. And I played a girl in the dream sequence that my dad was directing at this like little community theater, stage door dinner theater in Westminster, Maryland. So it just had a lot of music and a lot of joy and a lot of creativity. I think we just like was really fostered by my folks. My dad was a theater major in his undergrad. And like, I remember growing up with all of his LPs for the Broadway musicals that he loved when he was growing up. And they just kind of got suffused into the whole, like my whole being.
And he'd play those, I guess, when you were a kid. Like you must have heard musicals from the time you were little.
Oh yeah. So like we had a big van and we would drive around and it had a cassette tape deck. And there would be basically each side of the cassette tape, these would be 120-minute tapes. So each side could have one whole musical on it. So we'd have like hair on one side of the tape and then flip it and it would be South Pacific on the other side of the tape. So we were getting these like really diverse, really strangely juxtaposed musicals. We just listened to them on like every road trip.
And would you be singing to those as you're in the car?
Yeah, definitely.
So did everyone have a role when you were singing, or was it like everyone sang along?
Everyone sang along for the most part. There was basically the van, the mother van, we called it. Whenever we were in the mother van, we were basically singing. We would just sometimes there were certain, like, we would go out. This is a funny little tradition we had in our family. When we got our report cards, we would go out for ice cream dinner at Friendly's, which was an ice cream restaurant in the East Coast. And we would always sing songs in the van on the way home from Friendly's, to the point where it was like a tradition. Like, okay, if we leave the restaurant, get in the car, and the songs start.
And who gets to choose the tape? Like, who gets that must have caused a turmoil.
I don't remember a lot of turmoil. There were some that would go on heavy rotation.
Okay.
But I think mom and dad kind of controlled which one we were listening to.
Okay.
I think.
They would have to, I guess, with that many kids deciding.
Yeah.
And was Jesus Christ Superstar ever on that list?
Oh, no, we were not an Andrew Weber family. We were a Stephen Sondheim family.
Understood.
So.
There's a song I've always sent to Bambos.
Yeah.
Like, when everyone's in the dark night of the soul, I always send them one song from Jesus Christ Superstar. You know,
so you can feel, to access your emotions,
to access the depth of pain.
Sing it for us, Andy.
What?
Which one? Sing it for us.
Oh, I can't. I wish I could play. I would even play it if they weren't going to dub it out in our studio.
Yeah.
But it was just it was basically when Jesus is he's
on the cross.
It's before he's on the cross. It was when Judas happened, and it all happened, and then he was singing to God, "Why have you done this to me?"
Mm-hmm.
You know, God, why have you done this to me? And I get chills, even like not even singing it, but feeling the feeling. And I know that when Case was going through sort of this sort of feeling when he was not understood, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I've often spoken that when someone sort of feels like they're standing in a bigger vision than the world around them can kind of accept, then there's often this feeling of loneliness that comes in. And that was the song was singing to that. Like, I'm living this reality that I see that other people can't necessarily understand, and they're making decisions that the people around them can't understand. So, yeah, that's why I love it, because there's some attachment. Case, as you know, was my mentor, and somehow Case has mentored Bambos through me, so we have a connection that way.
Awesome.
Hey, Joe. So, as a little girl, what did you want to be? What was your dream? Like,
what I remember as a little girl, I wanted to grow up to be a veterinarian. It was like the career that I wanted. And it wasn't until high school, probably my sophomore year of high school, when I realized that required science. And I had just gotten a D in chemistry and was like, I'm good. I'm not going to do that. And then when I went to college, I had the opportunity. My older sister majored in theater when she did her undergrad, and she was just a year ahead of me in school. And I remember thinking, like, oh, I could do theater. Like, I could keep singing, like, for my education, and maybe, see if there's a career there. But even then, actually, I remember exactly what it was. I watched, there's a production from the 80s from the Royal Shakespeare Company of The Life and Adventures of Nicholas Nickleby, which is a 9-hour stage production in which like 50 actors play 250 characters. And it's unbelievable, jaw on the ground, heartbreakingly gorgeous. And I just remember watching it and thinking, oh, that's what acting is. I can't do that. I know my limitations.
Just for the record, my dad forced me to do that when I was in high school, all 9 hours. Yeah, he bought the ticket. He said, you're going to spend 9 hours on a seat. I didn't want to have anything to do with theater after that experience.
Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous to see that live. I just had the videotapes. Now, like, we have the DVDs.
I need to Google this.
Yes, 9 hours.
Pretty amazing. It is pretty amazing. Maybe as a child, it might not be the right.
Yes, I think you need to be older.
But I just thought that was really, really something. Really something special. But I kind of knew, like, oh, I can keep doing this, what I'm doing. Like, I can keep singing in public and stuff without actually, like, trying to make a career of it. So what I did was I went to school for religious studies because I thought that was a really neat topic that I would be able to like stay engaged in. And it was an easy enough major, like the requirements were low enough that I could take all of the electives that I wanted. So I still was in chorale, I was in chamber singers, I was in the main stage productions, I was taking theater classes, but I never declared a minor, so I wasn't forced to take any of the boring ones. I didn't have to take
everything you wanted.
Chief patterns of Western theater, but I sure as heck took the survey on Stephen Sondheim's musicals. It's kind of.
I love it. By the way, just to rephrase the for future reference, Gardens of, I can't even pronounce it.
Gethsemane. Yeah.
Gethsemane. That was what the song was from Jesus Christ Superstar. Ron Vargas, who was our guest yesterday, as you know, he is apparently a Jesus Christ Superstar aficionado.
I took a course in college called Christianity in Film, and every week we tackled a different movie that explored Christianity. And in 1 week we did both Jesus Christ Superstar and Godspell. And I've always kind of thought of them as like the two dueling like accounts of Jesus. And I just like Godspell better. If you're not familiar, it also just has like, it has some really, to me, very stirring musical moments. But it's not Andrew Lloyd Webber that I have a hard time with. It's definitely Tim Rice. I think his words are just bad. He's not good at writing rhymes.
No, let's agree that Sondheim, and as far as I could see in what I've known, and this is a little bit of, the stuff that I know I won't go too deep with Bombos here, but he actually was challenging social norms through his writing in ways that he would make fun of the people that were going to see his show. Like he would actually take these big risks, and then they would actually find,
he wrote this musical. He wrote this musical called Anyone Can Whistle, which was kind of like a fable that they made up about criticizing like government and bureaucracy, and also kind of criticizing like religion and I don't know, just really interesting musical. And they had this big like tentpole number at the end of the first act where like everything is criticized and they're trying to figure out who's crazy and who's sane, and it's just this big bananas number. And at the end of the act, the cast on stage all sat in seats and started pointing at the audience and laughing at them and making fun of them. Like it was this big thing. And Sondheim was like, this was like his second solo musical. That show closed after 6 performances on Broadway. Yeah. It was
too intense.
It was a complete bomb. It was one of the worst bombs in theater history. It was a little bit, that was probably in like 68 that musical came out.
I think the one you told me, which I loved, and it may have even been the one you just mentioned, was when they let the people out in the insane asylum, they went out into the city, and then through the musical, they had to figure out who in the city was insane and who wasn't.
Yeah.
Think about how great a plot line that is, Yeah, all the people that you think are all, by asking questions and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'd like to bring us actually to the title of this podcast.
I love it.
I'm really curious. Like, I kind of envisioned you on a bicycle for some reason, just riding the bike, and you're singing. And as you're moving through life, you're actually aware of people witnessing you. Like, how does it work?
How does it work? I very infrequently ride about bicycles, so definitely that's not part of the mechanics of it. But I think it really just comes down to, at any given moment, I have, I would say, 4 songs stuck in my head, like just playing in my head, and they just gotta come out. And I don't really care if like it inconveniences people or weirds people out. I think enough people kind of expect it, that it's not a weird thing. But really, the way it works, like it's more just for me free association in musical. And like Andy said, I have this weird like encyclopedic like recall of songs and musicals and things like that. So if somebody asks me a question and it has any word that was ever a lyric in any show that I know, or like, I will just sing it back to them.
Test it? I'm going to say, if any time it happens on this show, please go ahead. Just take it. I know that this is the thing we have in common, and it drives Ronnie crazy. So basically, she'll like give three words, and if she pauses for just a second, I'll take it into the song that was actually uses the same lyrics.
So as soon as you said "give me three," I'm like in my head, I'm immediately like, "Give me 3 steps, Mister, give me 3." Like I can't.
Yeah,
it's already there playing.
Yep. Yeah, I know it well.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Like if there's a
and
pause.
So we're always like on this. You saw yesterday's show when we were with Ron Vargas. I saw you check us in, and you saw with Ron. I mean, Ron has kind of this other side of the coin where he's basically speaking his mind freely, and then dealing with the reality that other people can't necessarily embrace what he's saying. Okay. And the question to you would be: you're in some way also expressing, but through your just being fully present in your music. How is it for you there? Do you feel that when you sing, people are reacting or not reacting? Like, how is that?
It has so little to do for me. Maybe mine's more selfish because it has so little to do with how it's received or reacted to, and more just like it's like I just need to get this musical cue out there. And I move on so quickly. I don't know if people are like jarred by it or stop. And my whole family is like this. So if you ever came to our house, oh my gosh, if you were there on like Thanksgiving morning,
yeah.
Oh, my fiance can tell you the story. The first time he came to Thanksgiving at the house, and he was in the basement bedroom directly under the kitchen. And he's like, I woke up at 8 a.m. and there was just music coming from everywhere. And I did not know what was going on. It was just Pressimone's just, cooking breakfast.
Wow. Yeah. Is there any like kind of music not allowed in the Pressimone house, or is it pretty much across the board? Everything is open.
I wouldn't say there's anything not allowed. We tend to have similar musical tastes. Okay. I don't think anyone in the family, like myself included, like not a big fan of country music.
Okay.
Just not kind of who we were raised. Yeah. I mean, people would have to really think twice before singing Andrew Lloyd Webber, I think. They'd have to really
like Phantom of the Opera playing in the house then.
Oh no.
Have you guys ever had like played with this, like, hey, I've got an idea, we're having an argument right now, so let's just sing it out?
As an argument resolution, no. My dad has from time to time tried to have opera day where everybody just has to sing everything that they say, but it's really hard to sustain.
Would you like to try? Would you like to try?
Opera day.
Opera day.
That's a great idea. Opera day.
Beautiful. Andy wrote an opera.
Did you?
I actually spent a good 3 months writing an opera for The Godfather.
Really?
Yes. Because it is an opera. I mean, you couldn't have it set as a better opera. So I wrote it for somebody at Indiana University who wanted to. I just did the libretto, obviously, and she was going to do the composition. And she was a student, and students don't finish things that they wanted to do. So I got to write it.
You have this Godfather libretto. I
have a Godfather. Anyone out there looking to write a composition, I've got a Godfather libretto at hand.
That's amazing. I love that.
And some really quite beautiful, because when you write the libretto to a piece, actually what you're trying to do is you're trying to kind of create story almost half through the acting, half through the words. So it's kind of hard because you're not like, you don't want to make it so literal. And if you're watching something, on a movie, you make things often more literal. So it was an experience.
Yeah, I think that's the thing I really love about musicals as like an artistic expression, is because like it's not just a song in a bubble. It's moving plot forward. You're learning about a character. There's like just real like forward motion I think in a well-crafted musical. So like a song can be like a whole story in itself.
What's your favorite musical all time?
All-time favorite musical is probably Sweeney Todd.
Wow.
Yeah. My name is Joanna. Joe is short for Joanna. So growing up, my dad always sang, I feel you, Joanna. I remember as a kid, we had a record player in my bedroom. And so we'd listen to the record of Sweetie Todd, and there's a very scary factory whistle sound effect that terrified me and fascinated me. So I had to listen to it. I did not learn about the plot of Sweeney Todd probably until I was in like 8th grade. Yeah. So it had already been like, I knew all the songs and all the words, but really like wasn't until I was like, oh, I think I was reading along with the liner notes. This is
Yeah.
the kind of kid I was. If I stayed home sick from school, I would go down in the basement and put on a record and just sit there with the record liner notes open and read along with the libretto.
I'll still watch the film version of that often, actually, just because I enjoyed that as well.
That's the only one I've watched. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, don't be sorry. That's great.
It sounds to me actually that your parents were pretty amazing. You've got like like most people have mama or daddy or mommy issues, and it feels with you like nothing but love when you talk about them.
Yeah. They're amazing.
Has there been a moment in your life where you felt like shit, and as you're moving through that emotion and you're feeling it, you start singing?
Yeah.
And how did that shift you?
Okay, so the unrest in the US and around the world being felt, and the pain of the Black community and the shame of police brutalization has been really upsetting. I find it a little bit difficult as a white person to talk about it in a way that doesn't come across as I have Black friends, or in any way like trying to take a central role in a dialogue that is not about me. It's about the Black experience. But that said, like, I do have a very diverse family, and 4 of my siblings are Black, and it's horrifying it's just horrifying. I live in horror. And a few days ago, there's a musical called Ragtime, and there's a song from this musical called Till We Reach That Day. And the plot of the song is taking place after a Black woman was unjustly murdered by policemen in New York back at the turn of the 20th century. And this is the funeral procession. It's this big gospel ragtime number. But there's her partner's singing what they took from her, what they left of her. And as he's like confronting his grief. Look what they left of her, left of her, left of my girl. And then Emma Goldman singing, she was nothing to them. She was a woman, nothing and no one to them. So they beat her and beat her and beat her. And then the chorus swells in, a day of pride, a day. I'm getting the words a little bit wrong. Now I'm like, oh, this is live. But it's like, this song has just been like articulating to me in my own heart the pain of a population and the bewilderment and just the suffering and this need for just mourning, this public mourning, just to reckon with this just disaster of a system that we're living with. So that's one example of when I felt like the lowest of the low, and it just needed to come out in music.
It's funny, as she speaks, I realize I use music a lot to touch emotion. Yeah. I've been playing Sting song over and over again, as you know, from the last day. And I was realizing as you were singing, I was actually using the song to feel into like the emotion that I connected to it. Yeah. Wow.
I didn't realize it, but now that you say it, I did it last night.
Yeah.
And I'll listen to musicals as well when I'm like really wanting to feel into a deeper emotion, because in that there's sort of an arc, so you take more of a journey in the song. We like pregnant pauses.
I know.
When I sing, I do notice that afterwards there's this space inside me. Like it's just different from after meditating. It's like a real like workout for your organs or for your internal world. It's just great. Yeah. So I feel like being with you, I just feel a lot of excitement.
Yeah.
I just discovered something else. When I told you how I'll be on the street with Ronnie and sort of, get into this fake argument, there's some aspect that I realize now. You asked, is it teasing Ronnie or something? There's no one around. In some ways, it's almost like freeing the energy that's in there. It's almost like an expressive act. It's like, and I see that if I could sing, I imagine I would probably be singing more, because in that way there's a release. I learned how to play the saxophone because I couldn't sing. And the saxophone was the closest thing to, for me, a voice. That was why I chose that instrument.
So, Andy, when you were writing the libretto for your Godfather opera, did you feel or sense the music behind the words you were writing?
I would sing them out in my head to feel how they came out. And then I would work with the composer and say, listen, here is where I'm feeling it. I try to connect. It's no different than how I navigate life. And Bambos and I will talk about this quite a bit. But when I'm with anything, I'm feeling what it's doing to me as I'm doing it. So I'm not really often in my head as much as what am I feeling right now? And then the words kind of match it. And then I kind of speak almost from whatever I'm feeling. And if I'm disconnected, then it's harder. So when I was composing the libretto, I was feeling, how do I feel and if I didn't feel like I was going to cry, I usually felt like it wasn't there yet. Like there had to be, like I started the libretto. Is this okay if we go there? I have to ask please. When I started the libretto for The Godfather, I put him as the child coming to America. So I didn't start it as it would have been in let's say the movie or the
Godfather 2.
Yeah, it was kind of like bringing in Godfather 2. Just where did they? So I brought him in as the child, and the child. I get goosebumps now when I talk about these things because I have to connect back to the emotion that I wrote from at that moment. But the whole thing was that he left death, destruction, and everything behind with both of his parents killed. So I sort of wrote the libretto, and I saw the screening of the child crying, saying, what have I left behind? What am I going to? I have no future. I have no future. And then I just saw him kind of walking away from stage. And then this shadow of the adult version of him coming in, like you'd see kind of the silhouette in The Godfather. And I just felt like that as I was writing it, I could see that and feel it. That was and I knew it was kind of on the right scale because my good friend David Jacobs, who he's head of the opera in Santa Fe now, the board. As I read it to him, he started to cry. So I'm like, okay, if it's there, then I know that that's the right area, right? And I used the same when I wrote the book. When I wrote and Ronnie would start to cry, I'd say, okay, this is it. And when she wouldn't, it wasn't that she needed to cry, but I knew that she's connecting to my mental and not to my emotional.
Yeah. And I think that's where music, like the most significant role that music has for me. It's just a way of like leaning into an emotion. Do you ever have like a piece of music that when you need like a catharsis or you need to have some kind of like emotional expression, whether it's like joyful or like just lean into maybe like a sadness or dark time of the soul, that you like have a piece of music that you can listen to that will kind of help you articulate the emotion that you're trying to get out?
Totally. I've got like the rep. In fact, Ronnie calls it my melancholy music. She'll listen to the Smiths for like, to go into and I'll have like, because when my mom died, I really was listening to a lot of Sting music. And if you listen to Sting's music, he really composed as if he was making soundtrack or making musicals, which he eventually did make musicals. But his music was much more of almost a musical arc to it than a record album. And so when I'll listen to Sting music now as an adult, I'll feel back into the emotions of the child when I was listening to it then. So I'll often feel that.
That's also a really neat thing. Just like when sometimes I'll be driving down the road and I'll hear a song and it will instantly transport me to another place and time where I heard that song. Not necessarily the first time I heard the song, just like a time that like I can immediately feel like I can see what I saw the last time I was listening to this song. and just that like connection to memory, I think is fascinating.
I'm curious from Bambos' side, because you listen to a lot of stuff, but they're often podcasts from my experience with you. Are you also putting music on? And if so, how do you sort of see yourself using music in any way or form?
Yeah, there's a specific classical music. His name is Joep Beving. I think he's from Belgium.
Okay.
And he has a soundtrack, and I listen to the whole thing. I'll cry from beginning to end. Like I'll be on my bicycle sometimes, and it just comes on, and I'm just crying.
Yeah.
Like it's really that slow, melancholy piano music.
Yeah.
Doom, doom.
Do you ever feel like there are times when you're like, oh, like you have to, like, oh, I don't have time for that emotional reaction right now. I'll save this for when I'm like not about to go into a meeting or something like that. Like,
No.
Sometimes like there's a piece of music, Make Our Garden Grow from Candide, which is a musical by Leonard Bernstein, and a number of lyricists have contributed to it over the years. But the closing number, Make Our Garden Grow, is so stirring to me that I will weep no matter what the production is. And I did this when I started quarantine. I did a really deep dive into trying to decide which was my favorite recording of Candide. And I listened to like 5 of them on repeat for about 2 weeks straight. And it didn't matter which version it was. This one particular song just made me cry like every single time, to the point where I was like, all right, I'm going to let myself listen to it later. Like if I get this work done, or like get through this meeting or something, like then I'll just, put on my headphones and listen to the song and give myself the emotional release.
Yeah, I often I'll use music to connect to emotion before I go into a meeting where I want to be more centered. And it often comes with like a soundtrack that I listened to not all that long. Like when I was doing the book tour, I was The Star Is Born, the new soundtrack. Like I listened to that all the way through 100 times over.
Yeah.
And then the year before that, I saw the musical Once. So I listened to that soundtrack, and so, yeah, I'll find one hook, and then basically then the next hook comes, and then the Greatest Showman soundtrack was something I listened to for ages as well.
Yeah, there's something about movie soundtracks where you see the scene where the person has to overcome something, and that piece of music is coming up. Like I'll play that.
Yeah.
And I just really feel it in my whole body. So it really helps me to access myself.
Yeah. I'm really tuned into words and lyrics. And my mom will always say that like she doesn't hear lyrics nearly as much as she hears the music and the melody. So I know like the theme from The Gadfly by Shostakovich is one of her favorite pieces of music. And like she hears the first couple of notes and is automatically welling up. But then like she'll also say like, oh, but she can't remember the words of songs, even though she also like is part of this big musical family and was involved in theater and everything. But she always says like the music is more what she listens for than the words. And I think I'm much more tuned into the words, though I like it when they are both great.
Wow.
I was in a situation with Andy once and another friend of mine. We were sitting in the sauna.
I was going to say, the way you're prefacing this sounds like there's some sexual end to it. And then you say sauna. I'm like, but we were together in this very strange, beautiful moment. What was it?
Well, I actually I had an issue with this friend, and Andy says you're not allowed to talk about it unless you sing it. So I had to sing.
This is in the sauna with other people, I'm imagining.
The issue to my friend and Andy. I had to sing it out to them in a sauna.
Yeah.
So there I was in tears in the sauna, just sharing, and my friend was like completely like, "What's going on here?"
Yeah, because what I've seen, this is similar with touch. If two people are in a pattern in their head and they're not able to break it, then you either have to find something so that they don't fall back on the story that's being reaffirmed through the patterning. And so breaking the pattern for me is like, there's this thing, if you're going to talk to somebody and you're not in a good state, then go and hold their hand. And I guarantee you the words that come out of your mouth is going to be different. You can't distance yourself from them if you're holding their hand.
Yeah.
So in that way, having you sing, I don't know if I was prepared in the sauna for you, all of us naked, to say, go hold his hand and then sing him a song.
I didn't hold his hand.
I sometimes like the challenge of trying to identify a song that articulates what I'm, as opposed to just putting my own words to music. Trying to, like, the challenge of trying to find a song that really fits what I'm trying to say. And I think there's some comfort to me in knowing that, like, if I can find a song that kind of matches what I'm going through, it means that somebody else has gone through this before also. And it's a lot less lonely to me.
Wow.
If, like, I can just say, like, look, like, if somebody else is able to articulate it so beautifully, then I know that I'm not the only one who faces this challenge.
Yeah. Interesting that you equate it with lone, like you somebody else has articulated it. That's kind of, I've never seen it that way before. No. I mean, I've always thought that almost that all of our emotions are sort of shared within humanity, and some of us have the opportunity to go into the depths of the mire to feel them, and others sort of find coping mechanisms to stay above ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that music, as an expression, is sort of that the most, not only music, but writing is, if it's authentic and you can feel the emotions of the person who created it, you feel a connection to that person immediately. Yeah. Which is kind of interesting, because with the books, when I've been writing and I said about Ronnie and her tears, it was almost like if I don't feel the emotion as I write, then and also when I do last letter exercises with others, I say, don't write. Like, don't write until you feel a tear come, because then anything you write is going to be beautiful, because you're basically channeling it from a wholly different place than if you're in your head trying to think, let me figure it out before I can say it. Right. Yeah. We've gone in so many different directions on this one, and I've kind of enjoyed it a lot, I have to say. Kind of wondering what would be a nice direction to go from here, Bambos. Do you have something in mind? Because I've enjoyed your prep questions.
For the people that are watching us, I can imagine, do you have any guidance to offer? Like, if people, like I do, especially my female friends, I always have quite a few of them who have had abuse in their life. They seem to have like a lot of stagnant energy in the throat, like their inability to express. And obviously they can go and take singing class, but is there anything like something for them to hold on to, or an exercise or whatever?
I know that I've been relatively untrained as a singer. Like, I took voice lessons for a short amount of time. My older sister was a much more dedicated student, and therefore my voice teacher was disappointed that I wasn't as dedicated as my older sister. But like, I've been in a lot of choruses, and I think some of my favorite exercises haven't been about like vocal exercises, but really just like focusing on how to relax, like the mechanics of the instrument. Like being, and this is something, Andy, like I know that you've worked on, like being aware of tension in the jaw, being aware of tension in the neck, and kind of having the connection through the whole, like your whole torso of how everything like works in harmony together. To like kind of create like music, the human voice singing, I think, is kind of a miraculous development of human expression, because it's so many different parts of your anatomy all lend itself to creating this musical expression. I'm not an instrumentalist. I dabble in 1,000 things and I'm good at none of them. But like, it's always been amazing that like, it doesn't, whatever your, perceived talent level, like you still have the instrument and you still are able to kind of tap into a creativity without necessarily being able to play piano or play guitar or, pick up a trumpet or something. I don't know, Bombas, if that's kind of what you were wondering about, but it's something that I think about a lot. But I've never had the experience of not being able to command the instrument to do what I want it to do.
So you've never had a moment in your life where you were emotionally shut down and that did not define you singing or not?
No. The only time I can think, when I was a senior in high school, I got nodules on my vocal cords and I had to go on vocal rest for 3 months. And that was rough. Yeah, and I remember there's a little bit of like betrayal. Like, hey, body, like you're supposed to work.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have experienced at different points with illness and things like that. This particular ailment was caused from screaming at football games because I was in the marching band. So my distaste for sports is well earned.
Yeah, you're either in music or you're in sports. You don't combine those two usually, you know?
Not usually, but I'd love to introduce you to my brother, John, who is both a professional musician and a professional athlete.
Nice. And in musicals.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, meeting Joe, like I offer workshops, connection games, and sometimes if people are emotionally heavy in their energy and they have to share what's happening to them, I'll invite us to sing, like even rap it out.
Yeah.
And like sometimes it's so difficult for people that they will walk out. Like that's too much, that you're asking too much of me right now. But being with you is like, wow, like there's a constant flow, like an abundance of and to get used to me like doing this every now and again.
I can imagine we'll be doing this more and more. One thing we'll often talk about as well is like into Bambos's earlier question is that like if I see a really sad movie and I can't allow myself to feel the pain that it's creating in me, I'll get it in my throat. So my throat will feel constricted.
Oh, that's interesting. I cry all the time. I cry at every movie. I cry at almost every TV show.
So like even there's not really constriction in you.
I've never had like a
experience with her.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
You cry every movie. Does that mean Rocky?
I mean, yeah.
Like
I cry. I mean, the Pokemon movie. Like, come on, Pikachu's lying there on the ground. Like Ash is trying to, I'm a puddle.
I'd love
but like, comedies too. I just feel very strongly connected to the emotion. I cry easily.
Yeah, I guess that in some ways, obviously, when they're producing these, we're on one of the upcoming shows. We actually have someone that produces the music for movies. So we're getting into that topic as well. I thought it was fascinating because in some ways, all we're doing is we're being manipulated over.
I think about that all the time because sometimes I am watching a movie and I am weeping and I'm thinking, I don't even want to be sad right now. It's just because there's violins.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite videos on the internet is when this little baby is listening to, I'm sure you've probably seen this video. She's listening to this really beautiful orchestra and the baby just starts to cry. Like just because the music is so powerful, but it's not the kind of crying like out loud, just welling of tears from the beauty of what she's hearing.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah. You've not seen that one?
No.
I don't think I've seen it either.
I'm going to find it and post it. It is so, when you see it, it's just to see that like a young entity sitting there experiencing this for the first time, feeling the beauty of what they're listening to. It's just, it's remarkable.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of where the music stems from in like my heart the most is like the being overwhelmed by beauty. There's a song, a song that I love called "How Can I Keep From Singing." Do you know this? It's an old,
You can
old
sing
hymn.
part of it for us, just so we know.
Yeah. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love is Lord of heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? And I just think about that all the time. That was what my mom, when I told her about this, the topic for today, she's like, "Oh, like how can I keep from singing?" I'm like, "Yes, exactly." The first verse. I just had it. Through all the tumults and the strife, I hear the music ringeth. It sounds, that's it. It sounds and echoes. I hear the music ringing. It sounds and echoes in my soul. How can I keep from singing? I think that lyric just really resonates with me.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it, I mean, it's really touching on. Singing is obviously one form of expression, but if you think to yourself, like in our lives, when we feel the deep well of emotion that we allow to come out in whatever shape and form it is, that's really living.
Yeah.
And of course, in music and singing, there's just such a beautiful expression in that. It's almost like we found one compact form to do it.
Yeah.
But if you can't sing, then you're like, you got to find another way to allow your expression to be, and unfortunately we use words, and words can be so confining.
Yeah. So what I'm getting from you is, what we've concluded so far is like, there's no suppression. So where I'll see people procrastinating to use their voice, you don't. But is there a part in your life, an area in your life where you do procrastinate?
Oh, I mean, yes. I know with certainty that there is. Let me think.
Don't think, feel it.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking kind of in terms of what Ron was sharing yesterday, and kind of like his freedom of not being as concerned with other people's feelings or reactions if he says something challenging. And I would say, like, I am concerned with people's reactions 100% of the time and affecting their feelings. I don't know that that's what I would call like a procrastination, but it is something that I am always thinking of, like, how do I have this engagement in a way that, like, I authentically express myself, but in a way that doesn't hurt anyone's feelings. Andy would know this. Like, I don't like to hurt people's feelings.
Doesn't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
I don't.
So has that been showing up during the show also, as we're here together? Did you experience moments where you were like,
No.
Okay.
No, not today.
She didn't want to tell you that you look funny with that head.
Didn't even cross my mind to say that.
I look funny with what?
No, I don't know, made something up. So we have a comment, and this is nice. What I'm noticing a trend now, Bambos. When we have another guest that's coming on in the future or the past, they tend to be the ones that like to comment on these. Donna is coming on our show in, I believe, a few weeks. She's just written a book about journaling, and she has a question. When we were discussing a bit earlier, she said, or when something scary is about to happen, I want to say to the characters, don't you hear that music? Watch out.
Whenever I feel afraid, I hold my head erect and whistle a happy tune so no one will suspect I'm afraid. This is another one. You told me not to stop if it came
Please.
up.
I'm totally enjoying it. I'm wondering, half the times when I make up lyrics, Ronnie thinks that they're actually lyrics I came up with. It's very scary.
Oh, I was making a pickle sandwich last week, and I made up a song about making a pickle sandwich, and I knew it was a good one because my fiance thought that it was already written by someone else.
Nice.
I said, no, that's the pickle sandwich song. I just made it up. I felt like that was maybe the greatest composition I've ever made. I can't remember it now, but
really, you should have recorded that. But you have, it looked like you had something in your head, Bam.
No. I just saw the time. We have just over 5 minutes. Is there an area that you would like us to go into
that we haven't?
That would be nice.
I was thinking about how we've talked about how music can kind of help us with these like dark emotions, and especially like confronting some of the pain in the world right now. But I find it just as useful for like amplifying happy emotions. And the communal aspect of making music just brings a lot of joy. I think there's a resonance that happens even when it's just something as simple as a group of people singing happy birthday together. There's just a real joy in the shared creation of music that I really love, and it's something I miss. We're in still in this kind of quarantine, so I haven't been with my family in a long time, and they're my favorite people to make music with. And the more of us there are together, the better the harmonies, both in the sense of musical harmonies and just it's a more harmonious existence.
Yeah, there's really something beautiful in that. Like if I tell you what are some of the best memories of my life, they were when I was playing the saxophone with another person. And there was a connection that I felt that was beyond just a normal connection. And the person playing the piano was far better than me. So why it felt so good is that every time I screwed up, they could cover for me.
Nice.
But that's when you really feel that you're connected, because in some ways you're like feeding off of one another. There's some beauty in there that goes unspoken, right? And Donna has another comment. You have your pickle song, and she used to sing the lunch menus to her kids, and they remember the enchilada song.
That's
so
awesome.
Apparently there's food songs that are going around in the world that no one has made an album out of yet.
Donna, please stop. I now feel for pickles and enchiladas.
I know, me too.
Andy's fasting, so
poor Andy.
Yeah, enchilada. What I would do for an enchilada right now.
I have to think of a juice fast song for you to give you strength, to buoy your spirits.
Yes. The wheatgrass is calling you.
The wheatgrass has no taste that makes my lips joyous at all. Oh. You mentioned we only got 3 minutes, but I'd love to hear, if we may, just quickly. You said you had a new instrument, and I'd love to hear a quick summation of what that instrument does.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just moved into this house, but I haven't unpacked my theremin yet, and I mentioned it right before we started. So, if you're not familiar with the theremin, it's an electronic instrument that you play by basically maneuvering your hands around two antennae. So there's an antenna that controls volume, and you move your hand up and down to control the volume. And then there's an upright antenna that controls pitch. So you move your hand further and closer to the antenna to control the pitch, and you can play beautiful melodies. Wow. I can't. One could.
So
I'm not good enough.
So I need you to just do a search for Angelo Moore from Fishbone.
Okay.
And then search for that, because in the 80s, he was using that device, I believe, on stage, and he drove the people in his band crazy because he loved it, and it sort of didn't jive with whatever else they were doing.
Interesting sound. The one that I have is really neat because it has a lot of different settings, so I can kind of put it on a little bit more, maybe like a more tonal setting, or I can like set the scale so that it's just like a standard major scale, as opposed to like a fully chromatic where you have to be a lot more precise. I'm not very precise. But it has I think
it's a good thing for us to have in the building here, because it feels like something that, like, for people that aren't necessarily musically oriented, there's something expressive in it that kind of goes to almost like you'd almost have to close your eyes to feel what you're doing. It doesn't sound like you play it as much as you kind of move your way through it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a really neat instrument. Yeah.
So we are coming up on our hour now. So
this is lovely.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
That's a tear rolling down my right eye.
Yeah.
Oh,
it was really great to be with you.
Likewise.
I always enjoy when we have a random conversation and then I ask people, and I really like people on the show who don't want to be on the show. Like, that's my favorite person. Like, anyone who wants to be on the show is sort of less interesting than the one who says, Andy, what are we going to talk about? I'm like, exactly. That's the reason why we want, so we can fully explore the things that neither of us know before you come on, right? That's the joy of it.
I do feel like I kind of shattered Bombos's image of me like on a bike just singing to like all creatures great and small.
Did that.
Yeah.
Now I see you in this green camper.
So we send you a hug, yeah?
Yeah, lots of love.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Yeah. Speak later, yeah?
Yeah,
Bye.
definitely. Thanks. Bye.
Hey, Bam. That
Hey,
was
and
beautiful. I love that. Yeah, there's something so cool about just kind of seeing someone in their full expression and then getting almost the contact high. Like as she's saying, I could feel how much singing is like not incorporated in my life as much as I would enjoy it. You know?
like I even want to encourage you to finish that opera. I want to watch it.
Yeah, I'm dying to get it done. Maybe I can encourage her to maybe take a look at it, and then we'll finish it together.
Yeah.
It's Thursday.
Tomorrow's Friday. We have Danny
Friday.
Redbard.
We have Danny Redbard tomorrow.
I am a man.
I am a man.
Damn.
He's balancing yin and yang. I know very little about him. It's very infrequent that I don't know much about the person coming on, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
I'm excited. And then a week from today is a big day. Why is that, Bambos?
Your birthday?
It's 50. Andy turns 50 on our 50th episode. You're all invited to join. I think we started.
Yeah, he's going to have, I won't be here, but he'll have a whole day.
What do you mean a whole day? 2 hours. We'll do a 2-hour show.
2-hour show, you and Ronnie.
You, me and Ronnie. It's Ronnie's birthday as well, so let's not forget that.
That's his wife.
Ronnie's my wife. So we'll be celebrating it for our 50th show. Ronnie and I will be here.
When am I interviewing you? It's before that, right?
We'll do the interview for the book sometime in July. So we'll do that a bit later. So thank you for joining us. And we look forward to then seeing you tomorrow. And of course, next week for my birthday on Wonderful Chaos. Thank you.